Discovering Asian dramas back in 2018 was an enlightening moment for me, and I've never looked back. I enjoy talking about them just as much as watching them. So much so that I decided to create a podcast with a heavier focus on Chinese dramas, but passing through Korean, Japanese, Thai, and Filipino dramas. Welcome to the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast, your corner for drama talking. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm your host Liliana, and this week's episode is one that I am so excited to record because it's going to be a deep dive into my latest obsession, which is Lighter and Princess. Now, initially, when I planned to do this episode, technically the drama should have finished the day before I released the episode, but there has been a death in China of an ex-president, I believe, and basically they've sort of put the whole of China into like a mourning period, and that means no dramas have been releasing new episodes, no new dramas have been coming out. There was a couple that were scheduled for the beginning of this month of December, and no, those were cancelled and postponed with no new dates as of yet announced. So for the time being, I know that this episode is going to come out and not everyone might have seen the ending for it. Now, you may all be asking how I'm recording an episode on it without apparently not seeing the ending. But I have. I've seen the last 4 episodes, and that's because so last week, Youku, which is the platform that's airing Lighter and Princess, is basically they did a fast track. Now, some platforms are known to do this, which basically means they offer you, say, a week before or even sometimes 2 weeks before, if you're a VIP member. I know, already paying a subscription to their platform, it's a bit nifty, but you know, I've never fallen for one of these. This is the first one I have fallen for, and I'm like, damn it. But regardless, so basically normally a week before, and this isn't for all dramas, they tend to do this on big dramas, so dramas that they know are doing really well on popularity ratings, and they know people are really, really enjoying them and running for them. That's the dramas they do this on. And basically what they do is a week before the drama is meant to finish airing, they basically say, here, you can have the last 4 episodes or the last, 6 episodes or however many episodes there is left to air on the last, week or so of the drama airing. You can have them if you pay us this much. And basically this is what fast track is. They basically charge you, or, they basically offer you the last episodes for an extra fee. Now, I have always been of the opinion of, I'm not doing fast track. This is ridiculous. I'm already paying a subscription. There's no way. And I didn't fast track for Love Between Fairy and Devil. I can't remember if they had it or not. I did go and watch the episodes elsewhere, shall we say, because I couldn't hold and wait to the ending. But did I? I can't remember. Does anyone remember? Did Fairy and Devil have a fast track? I can't remember. But regardless, I have always been like, no, I am not doing fast track. There's no way I'm paying for extra episodes. It's ridiculous. I'm already paying them for a subscription. No. And then this happened. And literally the day it came out, somebody on Discord shared, they're doing fast track for Lighter and Princess. And I was like, no, I don't. But I opened up the Youku app and my finger just wandered to the purchase button, and that's how it all happened. So that's how I've watched the whole drama, even though supposedly it's not finished airing, because I'm a sucker and I went and paid the extra money to go and watch the last 4 episodes. But yeah, so here we are. So if you guys are wondering why this is coming out, it is a full review. It's just the fact that, I got sucked into the fast track lane. So basically, if you do want to listen to this and you're up to date with all the released episodes, which is up to, I believe, episode 32, as I'm recording this now, I will be I'll be going through, just some things that I liked that will be non-spoiler, but then I'll be going into scenes from each episode. So if you want to listen, you can go ahead and listen, because I will be telling you which episode I'm talking about, so you can stop at the episode that you're at if you don't like spoilers. So that will make it slightly easier. Or if you prefer, come back next week and listen to this episode. It will just be a long episode, and I'm telling you right now, it'll probably be chaotic because I have so many notes, and I was going through them yesterday. I sat down and I was going through them, and I was like, right, I have so many notes, and I'm just going to copy and paste them into my script and hope for the best. And these notes were written while watching the show, so they are very chaotic. But we're going to hope that this works out. So basically, that's it. Do you know what? For my little drink today, I've just gone completely sideways, but I already feel chaotic today. I feel like this is the type of energy that this episode's going to bring. I am, I'm sorry in advance. But I'm just excited. I'm so excited to talk about this drama. But anyways, I sat down, and right before I came and sat down to record this, I popped into one of the supermarkets, and they had a tea that I hadn't seen before. So I bought it. As I do, I have way too many teas, way too many teas. And basically, it's a black tea with berries. And I'm not the biggest fan of black tea, but I have been trying new flavors out to see, what I enjoy. And hopefully this is one that I can like. Just some little disclaimers before we get into the actual episode, while I'm still composed. Just remember, my pronunciation is still a work in progress, so please take that into consideration. I'll try not to butcher Chinese very much, but I am not a fluent speaker or by any means close to it, so I just try my best. So for this episode, I will just start by letting you know what the drama is about. I'm just going to use my notes and description from a previous episode. I think it was 2 weeks ago, where I did a first impressions on this drama, and I thought I wrote that one out. I didn't, use the MDL description. So I'm just going to use it again because I didn't think it was too bad. So I'm just going to go with that. And then I will just dive into some things that I liked, which again won't contain any spoilers at that point. But after that, all bets are off. And I'm going to dive into my favorite scenes, and it's going to be spoiler galore. So I will give you a heads up when I get into that part. But that's it. That's it for today's introduction. I hope I have kept that one shorter. I'm working on shorter introductions to my episodes. So here we go. So what is Lighter and Princess about? So Lighter and Princess is a 36 episode Chinese drama, and it stars Chen Feiyu and Zhang Jingyi. It is directed by Liu Junji, and the screenwriter is called Zhou Yong. The original author for this drama is an author by the pen name Twentine, and the original novel is a 2-part novel called Lighter and the Princess Gown, Barren Grasslands, and Lighter and the Princess Eternal Fire. It filmed for 4 months from September 29th and September 29th till 2021 till January 29th, 2022. Lastly, the Chinese title translates to "You Who Ignites My Warmth." I think that's all like the little details I've gathered. And basically, this is a Youku production, and it's streaming on Youku, the Youku YouTube channel, and Viki. So that's it. That's the 3 places you can watch it at. The Youku app is the one that is further along. It's also where you can get the fast track and all of that. If you're a sucker like me and, you've fallen into the rabbit hole of paying for the fast track, let's all gather around and enjoy the fact that, we got sucked into this hole so hard that we paid for the fast track. But, whatever. We got to treat ourselves sometimes. That's what I'll keep telling myself. It's an early gift, Christmas gift from me to me. That's what I'm going to be calling it. But anyway, so what's Lighter and Princess about? So we actually start in the first episode in current time period, where we find our male lead, Li Shun, played by Chen Fei-yu. He has just come out of prison. We also find that our female lead, Ju Yun, played by Zhang Jingyi, is flying back from studying abroad. We come to know that they obviously have a shared past together. However, we don't quite know what that entails. And then basically the drama goes back in time to their university years. Li Shun is a computer science genius, the one who scored the highest in the national exam. But he's also the bad boy, the one that comes across as aloof and uninterested in anything around him, unless it's for his own gains. Zu Yun, on the other hand, although she's just as smart, she has a bright disposition with loving parents with high expectations. She's learned to follow her mother's opinion on everything but Li Shun. These two clash together, and Zu Yun's annoyance of Li Shun turns from that to curiosity to then something deeper. These two develop a friendship, which then turn into a romance. But they are literally bickering right from the start. So it goes from bickering to friendship and then into romance. It's quite a pleasant ride. However, life isn't always as easy. And as seen in the first episode, this romance that they develop will face its challenges, and our main couple will go in very different paths, and basically will they be able to overcome the obstacles. So that's the main premise of Lighter and Princess. Like I said, I have just used what I had already written down from a previous episode, because I think it explains it pretty well. So I hope you guys don't mind that too much. So let's get into the things that I liked, and some of these will kind of be repeats from what I previously said in my first impressions, just because I think they're very much worth mentioning, and they are things that stayed true to the end. So things that I enjoyed throughout the whole drama. And if you've been listening, like the first thing that's going to come out of me, if you've been listening to me for a while, you know for sure that the first thing that I'm probably going to mention is the main couple and their chemistry. Because if a drama doesn't have a good, hooking main couple with good chemistry, it's not going to work, for me at least. At least in if it's advertised as a rom-com. If it's advertised as anything else, this one is definitely not a rom-com, but a romance genre drama. If it's advertised as anything else, then it doesn't bother me too much, because the main couple probably won't be the main focus of it. But if it's a romance, then I need it to be focusing on I need that main couple to work really, really, really well together. And if you stick around and keep listening to me, you will discover this pattern. It's that, and I think actually this might be true for a lot of people. I don't know. Let me know what is your preference? Because for me personally, if a main couple isn't working for me, regardless of everything that's around that main couple, the drama kind of loses its shininess, let's put it that way. And if you stick around and you kind of go through dramas that I really, really loved, the thing that they all have in common is the fact that I absolutely adore the main couple. They work well together, their chemistry is good. So I think that is always something that will follow me in my drama watching, is that if it's a romance drama, then I need that main couple to be on point. And I think that's just something to be expected, I suppose, with the romance genre. But in this, it was done so well. Their chemistry is insane. It's so good. It's so good. Like I said, basically, not much, there's a lot of bickering between them. And even in their bickering, it's fiery. You can see sparks between them. Not obviously you can't see them. That's not, but you can feel that tension between them. And I absolutely adore that. When a couple on screen can do something like that, where you can't see it because, a spark or, just that exact thing, that spark, you can't physically demonstrate that in a drama, but you can feel it. And when a couple does that, when they show you, make you feel that chemistry, even though it's something you can't physically see, that's what I'm trying to get at, then that's something really, really special, because not every couple and not every actor or actress can bring that to the screen. And I just love it when it happens. The thing that I really, really loved about our main couple as well, and this ties in with the writing, is that their growth as characters was consistent throughout the whole drama. And, you can very clearly see the difference in growth between their, university time and then their adult time. When you jump back into the present time, you can see the growth the characters have had. And you can also see, because you've accompanied them for, however long, 20 episodes, 30 episodes, you've seen that growth throughout their journey. And I think it just makes you empathize with them so much more. So, yeah. And the last little thing I'll say on the main couple is, by God, these two can kiss on screen. Their kissing scenes will probably go down as some of my absolute favorite kissing scenes. And you know what I mean when I say, there's those dramas, and that can happen in Chinese or in K-dramas or in, Taiwanese or whichever. I think it can happen in any Asian drama country. But I also think it is more common in Chinese dramas. I think K-dramas have stepped away from that a lot more in the recent years, which I'm glad. But it's those type of kisses where the male lead is trying to kiss the female lead and obviously kissing, and the female lead just stands there hands by her side and just kind of moves her head slightly, and I'm no, we need to get involved. You need to sell me this kiss, you need to sell me this kissing scene, otherwise what's the point of having it? And these two, especially our female lead, she can kiss. She really, really can kiss on screen. And she gives, just as much as she gets from the male lead. And I find that so good. And also, I feel that fits so well with at the stage that they're at, especially when it first happens, when they first kiss, they're still, we see it in their university years. And it's that passion of youth, of, just barely being an adult. And you see all of that put through in their kissing scene, and I really, really loved it. Like, there isn't a lot of kissing scenes throughout the whole of the drama, but man, when they do have a kissing scene, they give it their all, and it's like peak. So I really, really loved the fact that, you know, they can really, really kiss. And I know that sounds frivolous, or that may sound ridiculous, that, like, you know, an actor and an actress can deliver a kiss scene properly, but I just feel like sometimes, you know, that isn't sold to me enough, or that isn't done as well. And I feel like it can take a little bit away from, you know, you enjoying the drama, because imagine that you kind of empathize with that couple and you can see that couple in real life. Like, you can imagine them, you know, being a real life couple, and then they kind of, like, you know, have a chase kiss, or not that necessarily that's a bad thing, but where the female just kind of stands there, or, you know, anything like that. It kind of pulls you away from that thing of, you know, you could see them realistically in life, or, oh, okay, I'm just watching an actor and an actress on screen. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, I'm trying to explain, but I'm hoping that makes sense to you guys. So yeah, I just had to mention that, because they are, you know, even if you don't watch this drama, go and Google those kissing scenes. They are worth watching. So my second point for this actually ties in with the first, and it's the acting. And I know, like, a lot of the time, this is just the points that, you know, we're pointing out. It's just like the same thing over and over again, or the acting's good, or, you know, the writing's good. But I feel like if a drama is going to be good, it's got to have like a little trifecta for me, and that is good writing, good acting, good directing. I think the three go hand in hand, and to make a great drama, you need to have, you know, good on all three. Otherwise, it just falls flat, you know, at some point. But the acting in this is so good. And also, these actresses, the actress and the actor, are pretty young. I think they're in their early 20s, I believe. And I'm just like, this is insane. If they're acting like this at this age, then, you know, I can't wait to see whatever they'll bring in the next 10 years or however long. But also, I just feel like I need to mention Chen Fei-yu was so good. And now I know, like, I had never sort of had any contact with him as an actor. Like, I hadn't seen anything from him. I hadn't really heard his name before. And then I did a little digging, and actually he gets a little bit of flack because he came into the industry and his father's a pretty successful director, and his mother is I don't know if she still is, a pretty successful actress as well. So it's kind of like almost in his genes to, you know, to be good. And I do believe he did quite a few movies with his father when he was younger. So I feel like he's probably having that background is going to give him a different kind of view on how to, like, portray his characters, I believe. Now, I also believe that he's probably worked very hard to get to where he is. Yes, he probably has, like, a little, you know, foot in the door because his father's a director, but if he didn't have, would he still be successful if he didn't have talent of his own, or if he didn't work at his craft? I don't think he would. You know, I think you still need to have, like, some shred of talent, and I really do think he does. So I just feel like, you know, it's kind of like in his genes, but the dedication that he puts forward, that's all his, you know. So I was reading up, and somebody shared on Twitter that actually he read the book for, like, a better grasp of the character of Lee Shun, to the point where when he sat down to have his hair, so at the beginning of the drama, you know, at the very early university years, he has bleached blonde hair. And most actors would probably just be like, that's going to be a wig, like, I'm not dyeing, I'm not bleaching my hair. But no, he sat down and he got his hair bleached, and that's probably why his hair looks fried in those scenes. It's because he got his hair bleached, and he was telling the hairdresser, like, basically, oh, no, like, we need to make it this colour. That's the colour that, you know, is described in the book. And just little details like that. Like, if I had read the book, those details would make a huge difference to me. I haven't. I do want to go and read it, but I believe not all of it is translated yet. But I definitely want to go and read the whole book, because I have also heard that they're very, very different characters, and the story is quite different in the book. You know, for the most part, it's the same, but there is quite a few changes that were made in the adaptation to the screen. So I'd be interested to sort of read that if I can get my hands on it. But yeah, so I really, really loved what he did. And also the second male lead, and I forgot what his name was. I should have written it down. But basically, I've seen him in quite a few dramas before, but he always plays like the nice brother, or he plays like the nice best friend. And from the get-go, like episode 1, they sort of say that, you know, he's basically bad. You can see he's not quite right, and there's something that's gone wrong. They don't tell you what it is, and obviously they explain it, but then you do come to find out what he does. And he played this character so well. It was ridiculous. And to me, it was like night and day, especially because I'm so used to seeing him as the nice guy. And he is the nice guy in the university is, but you can see that darkness brewing, and his acting was so good. So I was really impressed with it. His name is Zhao Ziwei. That's the second male lead, and he plays Gao Jinhong. But yeah, I was super impressed with his acting, especially, like I said, because I'd seen him before. So it was really refreshing to see him do, you know, something different. So for the third point of things that I really liked, I really liked how the story was told. And I think it threw me back into like the Untamed kind of story, because the Untamed did the same thing. And basically it's the fact that we start in present time, and then we go back to the past, and then, you know, you go back to the present again. And I kind of really like that. I have a little direct quote of what I wrote down, and it's basically, I wrote down, it's different. They start in the future, then go back to the past, and show you how the characters get to the place they are in episode 1. The characters are complex and feel their age. They make mistakes. They are young, naive, and arrogant, sometimes not even likable. But their age also means they are idealist about the world around them. This is the type of drama that, on the surface, it's a romance between a good girl and a bad boy. But you scratch the surface, and there's so much more there. And that's basically like what I wrote in my notes within a couple of episodes. And I was like, and I stand by that, you know, I definitely stand by that. So for my last point, without giving any spoilers away, I just feel like this drama hooked me from episode 1. I was so intrigued straight away, because they went straight into the story, if that makes sense. That device of starting kind of in the middle of the story, which is what they do. They start in the middle of the story, and then they go back and they, you know, initially to the beginning, to what should have been the beginning of the story, and then they throw you back to the middle of the story. And because of that, it meant that I was intrigued straight away, because when they then go back to university years, all I want to know is, well, how did these characters that I'm watching right now get to the point that I watched in episode 1? So I was hooked from episode 1, like so much so that I was making notes straight away, because I would for sure want to do a review episode, and here we are, review episode. So I guess I was right on that one. basically that's it. That's all I've got for the non-spoilery bit. Now, if you haven't completed the drama yet, or you haven't watched yet, pause this, go finish the drama, and then come and enjoy, all of it all over again with me. Basically what I'm going to do is I have notes for every single episode of scenes that I liked or quotes that I liked from each episode, and I'm just going to go through those. I will say what episode I'm talking about. So if you've watched, like I said, the first 32 episodes or however many, you can listen on until you get to the episode that you are currently watching. Or if you prefer not at all, then go finish, watch it, and then come back, whichever you prefer. But just come back and enjoy it with me. That's all I'm saying. Now, like I said, you've been warned. I am going to spoiler the heck out of this drama now. So, you've been warned. So, like I said, now I'm just going to go through episode by episode. And like I mentioned, for episode 1 and 2, it is mainly set up. I liked how, like I said, I've already mentioned this, but I liked how we start in the present. And it kind of whets your appetite almost, because you're like, wait, our male lead is in prison? Does that mean our male lead is bad? Am I not supposed to like our male lead? Like, how are they going to make me like this character now that I know that ultimately he's in prison? Now, does being in prison mean you're a bad person? No, whatever has landed there may be not necessarily the whole story, but I liked that. I liked the fact that it was starting already with great characters, and I really like the scene where our female lead is sitting at the cafe, and she thinks she sees our male lead out of the corner of her eye, and she runs for him. So from that moment on, straight away that there's a connection there, and you don't know how, you have no clue of what's happening, but that is, like I said, it whets the appetite. Those first 2 episodes, you just get some sort of setup of where our characters are in the future. And I really liked that. Again, episode 3 to 6, we again get mainly set up. But it's set up from university. Now, right here, I just have to mention this because I bloody loved this scene, and it's when Lee Shun is they're basically in the queue, so that would be Ji-yoon and her best friend, and Gao is there as well, and they're kind of all getting to know each other because they all go to the same course, and basically they're all in queue to get their books for university, and one of the first names that comes up is Lee Shun, and they're calling out Lee Shun, and everybody's just looking around, and then all of a sudden the crowd just starts parting, and in up the stairs walks this bleached blonde hair bad boy. You can tell straight away, just his demeanor, you can tell straight away that he's a bad boy, and he's just walking up the stairs, and he kind of everybody's staring at him, and our female looks at him as well, and he just kind of goes to collect his books and whatnot, and I love that scene. And also, I loved it how they tied that scene back into the ending. I will definitely come back to that bit when I get there. But that scene, it was chef's kiss. I loved it. It was kind of that entrance that, the cool guy is coming. But he's the bad boy that, you're not supposed to but everybody does, and all the girls are oh, how shrey, they say how pretty, or and I loved it. I loved it. But yeah, there's not a lot. So basically, they're just settling into university years for that, those couple of episodes from episode 3 to episode 6, and they're basically clashing straight away. Our female lead and Gao have a little group that they're going, and Lee Shun has another group, and Lee Shun's group is stronger because everybody kind of finds out that, he was the top scorer in the whole like county, I believe. So everybody's like, yeah, we need to stick with him because, you know, he's gonna get us places. And all the teachers kind of like really like him as well because he's a top scorer. So yeah, it's basically just like the setting of what's going to happen in university. And it's a lot of jarble about, you know, computer programming. Now, I wasn't necessarily too much of a fan, like, I don't know what they're talking about half the time about the language for computer programming, because I'm not a computer programmer. I barely, you know, can keep up with recording an episode for the podcast. But here we are. That's a whole other scenario. So I, you know, that doesn't necessarily catch my attention. However, I did like the fact that they kept it simple enough. You know, didn't necessarily understand it, but like simple enough in the case that it was only a couple of scenes here and there. And they didn't go, you know, into like complete detail. You would see them sitting there and writing code a lot of the time, but they wouldn't be, you know, talking about it constantly, if that makes sense. So I do kind of like that aspect of it. Now, in episode 7 and 8, there's a couple of scenes that I think was quite, I liked the way they did it. And basically, they are designing, so at this point, Do-yoon and Gao have kind of joined Lee Shoon's team, and they're designing an app. And this app is going to make them like some money, and somebody kind of comes in from a company and kind of like overtakes that app, and it's like it's now her project for that company. Because she's working under the company, and the company has like some pull with the university, and they're like, yeah, it's fine, you can all still work on it, but it's now her, like she's going to be the project manager of sorts, even though it was you know, Lee Shoon and Gao and Do-yoon who basically like came up with the app and worked really hard on it. And I feel like this was such an important scene where it shows you like how different their lives have been. Because basically Lee Shoon is just like, look, it is what it is. We'll just have to deal with it. And he's very realistic and very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like very, like he just takes it as it comes, basically. Yeah, and then Do-yoon, she's basically like, no, we have to fight back. We have to get the app back. So she's more like, it's our work and it needs to be, you know, to come back to us. And basically how this whole thing ends up being resolved is that the app does get returned to them, because Do-yoon basically like pretends to go and work for this company under this manager that has sort of come in, and then she sort of commits, she throws some water on Do-yoon because Do-yoon is not giving her the right codes for the app and whatnot. And basically what happens then is Do-yoon gets offended and brings in her parents, who have some pull as well. They have important jobs, and basically they kind of take care of the problem, and this manager basically gets humiliated by her uppers. And this basically shows you what it's been like. Like, Lee Shoon is like, no, I have to, like, we'll just take it as it is. He hasn't got any backup. It's him and his talent, and that is it. That is basically it. He can only rely on himself and his talent. And it's been like that for a really, really long time. Whereas Do-yoon has this very, like, pink glass view of the world, because she's been quite sheltered and quite protected by her parents, and her parents have been in a really lucky position to kind of afford her a different, you know, very middle class. They're not by any means ridiculously rich, but they are very, very comfortable, and they've kind of been able to offer her this very comfortable lifestyle. And I think that is like this scene and this this whole app, they design the app gets taken away scenario basically is so important because it shows you exactly, like, you've been told the differences between our main couple before, but this is a scene that sort of throws it in your face, like how different it is and how that upbringing like has an effect on their actions. And I just really, really liked it. And I've also written down that, like, for that, Zooyoon does want to fight for the app and everything, even though there's not much they can do, but she still says to the group, like, in her own mind, she thinks that Lee Shun is making a mistake and she wants Lee Shun to do something, but, like, she, you know, she doesn't understand why he can't do anything right now. And basically then she's still like, I like the fact that although she's thinking that and she's against Lee Shun for not doing anything in that specific moment, to the group, she still says, I trust Lee Shun to have a plan. So her trust is there, even though she wants him to do more and she's not seeing him do anything, she still trusts him to, like, deal with it. And then when that doesn't happen, she goes in and kind of deals with it her own way. So yeah, that was, I just really liked that. And then in episode 8, there's like a little scene, which I just loved this scene. So basically one of the female lead's friends, but she's also close to Lee Shun, like as close as you can be to Lee Shun. She says that he's her investor. And basically what happens is she's part of this band. She creates this band and she's the drummer, which right there is already so cool. And the character's name is Ren D. And basically, she then drops out of university to go and pursue her career, but she still stays friends with them. And, like, Lee Shun gives her some money to, like, start off and to, like, basically kick off her career with her band. And I just love Rendi's character in general. I think she looks so freaking cool. Like, I'm gonna have to look up the actress because I've not really seen her in anything, or I think I have, but I haven't really noticed her before, and I really did notice her, and not just her acting, but I really liked the character itself. And there's basically this scene where after everything is sort of done, they kind of, or, you know, the business with the app is sorted. They kind of all go out having fun and drinking, and Zooyoon gets really, really drunk, like really, really drunk. And they basically, so basically Rendi is with Zooyoon at that point, and she's trying to get her back in place, and she can't, and she finds this trolley, and obviously she calls Lee Shun over, and she finds this trolley, and they kind of stick Zooyoon inside this trolley, and they're like taking her back to their place because so Rendi kind of rents the downstairs and Lee Shun rents the upstairs, and they're taking her back there to sort of like sleep off because she can't go back to her dorms anyways because she's drunk and it's past like the closing time. And there's this shot of them three up on this bridge, and it's like the night sky is behind them and it's starry, and it's really, really a beautiful shot. But it's the first time that Zooyoon basically kind of throws herself at Lee Shun and hugs him, and like you see that Lee Shun like tenses up, but he slowly kind of melts into that hug, and it just shows you how far their relationship is going and like how it's progressing. So I really, not only was that scene to me, it was visually stunning to like look at just because of like the set of them on top of a bridge with the night sky behind them, but it's the fact that even though it's, you know, she's drunk and Rendi is there as well, it's not like a very romance scene in per se, but it's still beautiful, and I really, really liked that scene in particular. And then that day, Zuyun kind of wakes up the next morning and sort of, you know, she still, or wakes up a couple of hours later, and she's still not completely 100% sober. But she goes upstairs because she's trying to find a toilet or whatever. And she kind of runs smack into a mid-dressed or coming out of the shower Lee Shun. And that scene is just hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. But the point from that scene that I really, really liked and I thought was important was that Zuyun is looking at Lee Shun's computer, and she's reading the code on it. And Lee Shun comes back into the room, and they're kind of like sitting next to each other on like this porch of sorts. And basically, Lee Shun says to her, "Oh, you don't, you didn't know what you were reading there on the code." And Zuyun actually turns to him and she goes, "Yeah, I understood that code. Like, you've been working on the app. You've just been working on a better app, haven't you? That's your plan." And Lee Shun is kind of like taken back that she saw through his code. And I think that was really clever for them to show us that basically not only did she understand his code, but she looked through the code for his intentions. And I just loved this scene because it shows how far they have like come in understanding each other, especially Zuyun's understanding of Lee Shun and how Lee Shun works. And like she understands that Lee Shun kind of talks through his code and through his actions. He doesn't say a lot, but he talks through his actions or through his code. And I just really, really liked this scene because it's almost like she's slowly starting to understand how he codes and how he like writes code. But it's more than that. She's understanding him as a person. And I just adored that scene. Like, that connection between what they do every day and like who they are as people. So yeah, I know, I may be reaching a little bit on that one, but that's how I took that scene. It's like how she understood him through the code that he was designing, and I really, really liked it. Up for episode 9, I have a scene that's basically like that. They're up on the mountain and they have to travel, they're going to a party in the mountains with friends or whatever. And I just loved all the shots on the mountain. Like, the scenery itself, it's stunning. It's so, so beautiful. Like, it was directed and shot so nicely. And it's basically like the three of them up on the mountain, Gao and Ziyun and Li Shun as friends. And they're kind of like, that's their pact, them deciding to work together and basically taking on the world. And it's like they're, it's again going back to, them being naive and young, but it's them wanting to change the world. And I just feel like not only are those shots just beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but I also really like the friendship and the solid friendship that's there. And then when scenes like this happen, it kind of throws me back to episode 1, and I'm like, how can such a strong relationship between the three of them just absolutely crumble to the point where in episode 1 none of them are speaking to each other and they've all kind of parted ways? And it just makes me even more curious to know, what's coming next? How did we get to episode 1? And I think that's always been one thing that this drama has done so well. It's like the story itself is not exactly revolutionary or anything like that. You've sort of, but it's still so special, and I think it's a lot to do with how the story was told. So yeah, I just love that scene because it's like the three musketeers, so to speak, basically building their relationship and making a pact together, and it's just filmed really, really beautifully. Yeah, I just really, really liked that. And also I wrote down that in episode 9, I think it's also really when we start to realize the shift in Ziyun, and like just like how Lee Shun was doing whatever he wanted, and she's learned to do the same thing. Like she's learned to do whatever she wants without telling others. She's basically like taken a page out of Lee Shun's book, and she's like, well, if you're doing it this way, then I'll do it the same and see how you like it. That's basically what she's doing. And I think it starts to sow like a shift in Zooyoon and her character and how she's going to develop. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting to see in this episode. I also just realised I got ahead of myself. I did warn you guys that this was going to be chaotic. These notes are sometimes a little confusing. So basically when I was talking about like them losing the app and Jooyoon basically running to her parents, that is like the episode 10 arc. That's when that happens. And I have written down that Jooyoon really did have the right intentions when she went to work for the other manager and like telling her that she would give her the code. Obviously, I don't think Jooyoon would ever give her the code. She was just trying to delay them and like trying to figure out a way to work around and to get their app back. But I don't think that basically, you know, the way she did things was right, because she went behind Lee Shun's back. She basically found out a secret. The manager had a secret that she was holding over Lee Shun. And basically she said to Lee Shun, you either give us this app or, you know, you fully give us control of the app, or we will release that, you know, you cheated back in high school on one of your tests. That story does come clean later on. But I just thought that this really showed like the shift in Zooyoon, because she went behind Lee Shun's back to work for the manager, and that, you know, that's her taking a page straight out of Lee Shun's book. But I didn't like how she did it, and also I didn't like how she basically forced Lee Shun to give up the app to protect her. And she did that because then in turn that protected him. But I also feel like both of them neglected one very important thing. This was also Gao's work. And they go behind Gao's back, they don't inform him, they just do whatever the heck both of them want individually. And this is where like communication would have been key. It's just a bloody mess of like miscommunication in this episode, and it's Lee Shun trying to protect Jooyoon and Jooyoon going behind them and trying to protect Lee Shun, but nobody's remembering Gao, who also worked really hard for the project. So I think, you know, this is where their relationship, like the seeds between our three musketeers, like the seeds start to come through, and it's when, you know, their relationship starts to crumble slightly. I think this was the problem. You know, it was always going to be a problem because yes, there's three of them, but Jooyoon and Lee Shun will always protect each other, and that at that point they don't realize that by protecting each other they're also hurting Gao. So yeah, I thought it was quite an interesting point of how they did it. And yeah, it also showed basically still in episode 10, that's when, you know, Jooyoon goes to her parents and they kind of, you know, do this, fix the situation. And her parents stepped in with their connections. And I've written down, but later in a conversation with Ren-ji, Jooyoon does admit the action didn't make her feel like a winner because she wished she had brought her down with her own abilities. And that kind of brings her character to a better standing with me. So basically, I didn't like that she went behind Lee Shun's back and kind of forced his hand, and not like didn't sit down and kind of like talk to Lee Shun and Gao on how they were going to resolve the situation, and that she went and got her parents and her parents fixed the situation. But And that, like, when I saw that scene, I was like, oh, I'm not sure I like that. I don't like that in her character at all. But because she then, in that conversation with Rendy, admitted that it didn't make her feel good, like, that's not how she wanted to deal with it. You know, she did it and she humiliated the manager, but it didn't feel good. And that kind of like brought, you know, Zooyoon's character back to a better standing with me as a watcher, because I was like, this is such a human thing. She made a mistake. Yes, she's been sheltered her whole life, and you know, her parents do kind of afford her a different style of life, but she's learning. She's human and she's learning. And I really like the fact that she admitted to, not just to herself, but to Renji, in a conversation with Renji, that it wasn't, you know, she could have gone about it in a different way. So I loved that you see our characters making mistakes, and then you see them grow and evolve from those mistakes. So I think this arc was actually, like, about the whole app and their app getting taken away, was really important for us to see, you know, a growth from our characters and from the story itself, and to, you know, plunge the story forward a little bit, because now those seeds of, you know, dislike are in Gao, and Gao is just like, I'm never, you know, gonna work with them because they will always keep outshining me. So I think this is where we see the beginning of the most discord, I think. And I also think in episode 11, they kind of circle back just to wrap that whole scenario of the app getting taken away and everything and how it was dealt. They wrap that up by having Lee Shun and Zooyoon have a conversation about it. And I think it was really important for them to sit down and have that conversation, because I love how this drama touches on privilege and how that privilege affects, like, your view on life itself and your actions. So the conversation they have about how she got the app back, and how it necessarily wasn't a good thing, it's really important, because, you know, Lee Shun has a very, very different upbringing to Zooyoon, and just them sitting down and having that conversation, coming at it from very different places, of growing up and, you know, just different lifestyles. I really liked that whole conversation between them in episode 11. And then it kind of like goes into completely opposite, because a different man comes into the story, very, very short, but he comes in, and like, this is when you start to see the jealous side and the hijinks, you know, from Lee Shun. And I thought that was a great, like, salve after the problems that we've been having, like, in previous episodes. So I really did like that. And then in episode 12, I have to talk about this because I feel like this is the new I like you. Lee Shun says a line that I just love it. And I feel like coming from him, it's almost like he's saying he likes Zooyoon. And basically what he says is, I accept your kindness. Now, Lee Shun has been alone and working alone for a very, very long time. For him to accept something from somebody else is, you know, it's him showing that he trusts you to a certain degree. It's like him opening the door for Zooyoon to come in. And I just love this line, because it took him quite a while to accept that kindness from Zooyoon. And the fact that, you know, she worries about him because of him, like, sitting and coding all day. So basically what happens is he has a back injury. And obviously from him sitting and coding all day in the same position, you know, it doesn't, you know, help. So basically Zooyoon is like trying to help him sit in a better position or go out and do some exercise. And she's just like, I don't want to do that. And eventually he does accept her kindness, and he, you know, does go with her to move his body and to, like, you know, just get in a better position so his back isn't as injured anymore, you know, is taken care of. And he accepts that from her, and he's never really accepted that from anybody. And I just love how this drama, like, keeps showing you growth in their relationship. Every single episode, there's little interactions that on the surface, they don't really mean a lot. I mean, if you are to say to somebody, I accept your kindness, it seems like such a trivial line, but in the respect of it being Lee Shun saying that to Joo-yoon, it's such a major step, such a major step. It's crazy. So I loved that line. It's almost like he's saying, you know, my door is open, walk in, or start that process of allowing her to come in and meet him, like, halfway. So I really loved that scene. And then in episode 13, I think there's quite an important scene where basically Lee Shun puts Joo-yoon in charge of team building, because he knows that's not one of his strengths. He knows that he is not good with words with people. Like, he codes really well, but when it comes to human interaction, he's not that great at it. However, Joo-yoon is, so he sees that as strength in her, and he puts her in charge of, like, team building within their, you know, group that they're working on, like, their university group to get credits for, you know, college, not for college, for, like, graduating and stuff. So basically, you see, I think this scene is important because you see Gao becoming more and more frustrated with it. He's just, like, picking at stuff now, and he's starting to turn and to be like, it's impossible to be in this team as three. Like, I'm always going to be in their shadow. And I think that's quite important. And then, like, our couple goes to the museum, and it's the sweetest scene, so I just have to drop that one in. It's not, like, a huge scene, but I really liked it. And then episode 14, my notes for episode 14 are that it's basically like, so whereas a couple of episodes ago we were having jealous Lee Shun, now we have jealous Joo-yoon. And basically there's a scene that she hears Lee Susi, they're traveling or whatever, she calls him up, and she's gone back home. And basically it's like a holiday, and everybody's kind of going home and whatnot. And she goes back home and she calls Lee Shun up, and she hears Lee Susi in the background, which is like a side character. She's not too important. And basically I just love this because it's him teasing her completely. And it's also the first episode where Lee Shun actually, like, goes after her. He seeks Joo-yoon out because he goes back to her hometown to seek her out and everything. And also, very important, it's the first time where we actually see Lee Shun smile, and, like, smile, full on smile. And he basically says to her, I specially came for you. And then, like, everybody that's watching this is just, like, swooning at this scene. And it's this that, like, gets me every time in this drama. It's like the simplest things, like the lines such as I accept your kindness, or I specially came for you. And they're not even dating, they're not holding hands, they're not kissing, nothing. They are just technically friends at this point. And yet, it's these, like, one-liners delivered by Lee Shun or by Joo-yoon that completely make you swoon. And that's one of the things I absolutely loved about this drama. It's that half the time there is no physical contact between our, main couple. And yet, it's their chemistry, it's their longing looks, it's all of that makes and adds up to the swoon factor of this drama. And this was one of those scenes for sure. And then, like, basically he goes to her hometown and he gifts her something. And it's this beautiful blue princess dress. And it's so, so pretty. And I'm like, this scene, it's basically like they get paid for the app and he goes back to her hometown and, like, with the excuse that he's coming to give her wages and whatnot. But actually, he's there to give her wages and this beautiful, beautiful blue dress. And I just love it. I just absolutely love this scene. And then his reaction to her wearing the dress is so, so, so beautiful, because what he says to her is basically, he says, a princess should wear a dress. And it all ties into the fact that when he basically, like, sets up his group, he kind of, like, wants her to come and join his group. So she comes in and she's like, oh yeah, I'm the one that he specially invited to come and join the group. And he calls her Gongjun, and Gongjun is like princess or your highness, or, you know, a title along those lines. It gets translated into princess a lot of the time, but I think it's like more your highness. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is. It's basically like a royalty title, and it kind of sticks. And that's his nickname for her. He always calls her Gongjun, or, you know, your highness. And basically, that's what he's saying. A princess should wear a dress. And I just love this scene, because then, like, Zhu-Yoon asks for fireworks, because I think it's like Chinese New Year at this point. And she's like, we should have fireworks. And he basically was like, okay, I'll go and grab some. He goes and grabs these fireworks, and then he doesn't have a lighter. And basically, in an earlier episode, we see that Li Shun has a lighter that was his father's, and it's the only thing of his father's that he has. And he's always clicking this lighter around, and the lighter broke. It's really old, it broke. And Zhu-Yoon basically grabs the lighter, and she searches and searches and gets it completely fixed. It's the same lighter, you know, it's his father's lighter, but it's now fixed. And she basically hands him the lighter, like, all fixed, because he asks for a lighter to, you know, light up the fireworks. And I just loved this scene, because it's like the epitome of the title of the drama. It's two really important things. So he gifts her this dress, and he says a princess needs, you know, should wear a beautiful dress. And then she gifts him his lighter. And it's basically like the lighter and the princess, and it's the whole story right there. And I just loved that link in, and like how special that lighter is to him. She knows that is the ultimate gift she can give him, is to get that, you know, that lighter fixed. And for me, this scene is so deep. It's ridiculously deep, and I find it fascinating that in this scene there is no kissing, no touching. It's just, you know, them. She's up on this balcony and he's like downstairs with the fireworks. And it's all about these like smiles and glances. And it's the epitome. It's that trifecta working perfectly of great acting, great camera directing, and then great storytelling. And it's like in this scene, everything just clicked together. And it is one to the end of the drama. It is still one of my favorite scenes because it is so, so deep. And you can just feel like the chemistry again, and that romance just popping off the screen. So yeah, this is still one of my favorite scenes, and I find that really, like, not, I don't know if interesting or whatever, but I find that fascinating to me, that one of my favorite scenes wouldn't necessarily be like a kissing scene, or, you know, there's bigger scenes later on, and yet to this day, this scene right here, there's so much emotion. It's so charged, this scene. So yeah, I really, really loved it. And I'm going to move on because otherwise I will be here talking about it all day. So I really, really, and then we're back to episode 15. At this point, like, Lee Shun has gone back to college, and Zoo Yoon wants to get back early so she can be with Lee Shun. And she has this childhood friend that she grew up with, and her parents basically kind of want them to be together, but that's just not gonna happen. And you can see if it's by the guy, the best friends or the friends, he likes Zoo Yoon, and he kind of wants to do what's best for her, and she kind of manipulates him to get back to university. So I didn't really like that at all. And I almost feel like Zoo Yoon as a character, her character is, by norm, a little bit manipulative. And I find that fascinating for that to be something that's in a female lead, because you normally assume that the manipulative traits go to the second female lead. And yet, is there really a second female lead in this drama? Not necessarily, I don't think. But other characters around can be manipulative, but you don't expect the female lead to be, and that's what I'm trying to get at. And I find it fascinating that they've done that with the female lead, because it shows like the characters are flawed by nature. They're human by nature, so they are flawed, and they're shades of grey. It's not black and white. It's not all good or all bad. They're shades of grey, and I just find that adds to like the complexity of the characters, and it makes it for a better watch. So yeah, I really, really liked discovering or seeing it in that way. I felt that episode 15 was like more of a filler episode. It felt, but nonetheless, it was still like really enjoyable, and there was like really cute glances between Zoo Yoon and Lee Shun. Like at this point, they are fully into each other. They just haven't admitted it yet, but they are fully into each other. So there's a lot of like longing looks and glances in the next kind of episodes, and I'm here for it. I'm all about the longing looks and the glances and whatnot. So yeah. And then episode 16, we again see how like Gao is being pushed aside, and like Lee Shun is basically saying over and over again that basically he can only win if you follow me. And basically what this is, Gao decides to strike out on his own. He wants to basically go and enter this competition by himself, and he wants to step out of Lee Shun's shadow. And basically what happens is Joo Yoon spots somebody at the competition that was indirectly or kind of directly involved with a friend of hers' death when she was in high school, and she really does not like this guy, and it seems like everything's kind of stacked for this guy to win the competition, and she doesn't want that. So she joins Gao, and she's like, I'll enter the competition with you. So they kind of start, but Zoo Yoon is like, no, we have to bring Lee Shun in. Like, there's no way we can win. We have to bring Lee Shun in. So Zoo Yoon basically goes in behind and like kind of brings Lee Shun in. And it's again just one of those times where Lee Shun and Zoo Yoon fail to realize that their wants and their, them putting their wants and needs above everything else and like protecting each other, it is crushing Gao. And they basically come in and take over his whole project, so it doesn't belong to him anymore. So he tried so hard to step away from them, and they waltz in and take it all away. And I feel like it's in this moment again and again when stuff keeps happening to Gao that he starts hating them more and more. And I think that's when their relationships had already shifted, and they kind of like tried to mend it. But it's gonna get to a point where Gao is just like, he's being stretched and pushed, and he's gonna break. And, that's clearly what we're gonna see. We know we're gonna see it because that's what's happening in, episode 1. So, I think that was very, that scene needed to happen, of them basically coming in and putting their wants and needs ahead of Gao again, so that we can realize. And I think this is really important because at this point we are seeing why Gao is going to be the way he's going to be, because he's been pushed so much by these two characters. And like, you can see that Li Shun is selfish, and so is Ziyun. Both of them are very selfish to their wants and their needs, and they completely ignore Gao. They almost like use Gao as a plot, for them to get what they want. So yeah, I thought that whole situation was really complicated, and kind of like it was there to show the audience how Gao was, why Gao was going to become the way he did. And then episode 17, I'm laughing because I love this. They're at the competition, and like, they're basically, Li Shun is really late, and he walks in, and basically Ziyun asks Li Shun, "What did you do?" And Li Shun just basically, like, with this smirk on his face, just turns to her and goes, "I went to do something bad." And I'm like, oh my god, it's like all he needs is the bleach blonde hair, and it's the bad boy vibe all over again. And I was so here for it. I loved it. I absolutely loved that one-liner. But basically, Li Shun comes in, and he kind of like takes the guy that Ziyun didn't like in the competition completely out of it. And this is obviously going to become a really big problem, because that guy will become the reason that a lot of stuff goes down later on in the drama. But at this point, like, they've won, but at what cost have they won? They get disqualified, I believe, from the competition. And Gao is just like, I think for me personally, I think this is the last, like, nail in the coffin for Gao. He's like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with them. There's no way. I need to do this on my own. And I think this is like, like, when dramas or like movies, especially like superhero movies, they give you like the villains where they became the villain. I think this is it for Gao. This is where he becomes, or this is his origin story for villainy later on. But yeah, and then swoon alert, because episode 18 is where we get the kiss scene, finally the kiss scene. And this is what I find fascinating. I hate slow burns. It's not something that I necessarily like. But this, for 18 episodes, there's not been a hand held. There's been like one hug, maybe. No kiss scenes, nothing. And then an episode, and yeah, I'm still like swooning and loving every single episode. And then episode 18, we get a kiss scene, and it is stunning. It's directed in this like beautiful like park where the leaves, it's kind of like autumnal. The leaves are kind of falling, and there's like all shades of oranges and browns, and it's so, so, so pretty. I think my notes say it best, because I just have written down in all caps lock the freaking kiss scene, and it's stunning. It's it'll probably go down as one of my favorite kiss scenes ever, because, Ziyun says to him, "Just stay with me, I'll never betray you." And she's like saying to him, because she thinks he's gone to meet some other girl, and she's just like, I like you, stay with me, whatnot. And he literally just cuts her off and kisses her straight through. And it's like this kiss, and they're both really, really kissing each other. And, you know, it's beautiful. She's in her blue princess dress that he gifted her. And there's like all of these beautiful orange and brown tones in the background, and it's visually stunning. Like, this scene is visually stunning to look at, so I absolutely loved it. And do you know what, I loved it so much that that's the only thing I wrote about in my notes for episode 18. It's like it's a beautiful romantic scene, and it's like everything I wanted and more. I'd been waiting for 18 episodes for something to happen, and then when the kiss scene finally happened in episode 18, they delivered it completely, and I was like, do you know what? It was worth the wait. That kiss scene was worth the wait. So I was fully happy with it. And then, like, obviously they still haven't quite like defined it properly, but you know, their teasing each other is so incredibly sweet. Like, I love watching a couple and like how they've gone from bickering, that bickering that they're not friends, they don't necessarily like each other, to then like they form a friendship and then a relationship, and then that bickering doesn't go away. It just turns into like sweet teasing, and I adore that. And yeah, I wrote that down because I thought that was pretty cute that they continue their teasing even after their kiss scene. And then I have written down that for episode 18 and 19, it is the absolute sweet and calm before the storm. Like, these two episodes are just so sweet. You're seeing like university wrap up friendships, and like their relationships mature. You also see like how they start their company, L&P company. And I find this hilarious because L&P, like, Lee Shun says that it stands for lucky and power. And Zooyoon is like, no. Oh, no. It stands for lighter and princess. And I absolutely love it. I think it's hilarious because then everybody else, and I think it's like an in-joke just between them, because everyone else assumes it's lucky and power because that's what's written on there. But Zooyoon knows that it's meant to be lighter and princess. And I absolutely loved it. And I find that at this point, they are still very much in like their, youth. We can achieve everything. And I absolutely love what Lee Shun is doing. His line of, I hope that cancer survival rate will be improved by 1%, because all he wants to do is to better the technology that's used within the medical field. And especially for cancer, because his mum died of cancer, and he says if my technology, if whatever we design can help cancer survival even by just 1%, then I feel like I've accomplished what I want to accomplish. And I feel like it's that youth of, we can do anything, we can take on the world. But also Lee Shun in this moment is so inspiring. And that's what Zooyoon falls completely for. I mean, obviously she sees everything else around him, but he has this aura of inspiration around him. Like, he's a very inspiring character because he's risen up from like the depths, and all he wants to do is like, try and help the world be a better place. So I really love that. And honestly, these episodes really are the calm before the storm, because episode 20 comes and I've written down, that's it. That's the final nail for Gao. This is the last straw that makes him the villain we see in current days. And that is, everything that goes down in episode 20, that's what it is. Like, he, everything kind of gets taken away from him again, and he's just like, that's it. I also find it really interesting that there is a scene, basically like what happens with Gao, just before I go on to the next point. What happens with Gao is he's meant to go abroad and do like this study and everything, and that kind of gets taken away from him because of the actions that Lee Shun and Zooyoon did to punish the other guy. That, college entrance gets taken away. And not only does that college entrance gets taken away, but also like because he gets kind of like disqualified from the competition altogether. And it's one of those times again where Gao looks at it, and the plain facts are right there are that basically Lee Shun and Ziyun went and did whatever the heck they wanted, and it had major consequences in, you know, Gao's life. And I think that really is the last straw for him. So, yeah, I also, in this scene, there is a very, very sweet scene because Lee Shun says, I love you to Duyun for the first time. But I noticed that in this scene, he says it to her, but she never actually says it back to him. And I always wonder if that was done like on purpose, because to this point, we've kind of seen everything that like, you know, that Duyun has done, and she was the first one to say, I like you, back in episode 18. But I think it's more important for Lee Shun to say it than it is for Ziyun, because for Ziyun it's clear as day that she loves Lee Shun, and it's quite clear that Lee Shun loves her as well. But he would never say it because that's not who he is, and I think it was really, really important for him to say it. But yeah, I just noticed that little detail that she never actually says it back to him. Now, episode 20 through to 22, these are like the angst scenes, the heartbreaking scenes. Lee Shun is setting everything up for him to go away. There's so much in these scenes, and the acting is like phenomenal. But I don't have too many notes for them, partially because I was right there with the characters, feeling despair, hate and grief with Lee Shun for his sister's passing away, his only remaining family gone, because that's what happens to anyone that basically like Lee Shun loves. They seem to die, and that's his biggest fear, and that's why he wants to go away. And then we have like Ziyun trying everything to get Lee Shun out of that grief, but also like feeling the pain herself and the guilt. And then finally Gao, he's lost all sense of friendship, and like his jealousy is completely won out now. That is like his main purpose now, is like his jealous. And these are the episodes that basically it takes you right up to episode 1, and a lot happens in these, and they are sad, and like I said, the acting is phenomenal in these episodes. So, but I'm not going to go into them because I will probably get upset all over again. Those scenes were hard to watch, and I don't want to go back on them. But yeah, that's a lot, you know, happens there. And then I just have a little, for episode 23, I really, really loved how they showed the passing of time, how basically the scene of Ziyun visiting Lee Shun is filmed at times from like above. So basically at this point, Lee Shun is in prison and Ziyun goes and visits him, and basically Lee Shun is like, no, I never loved you. It was all a plan, blah, 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 blah. You know, how you do when you're hurt and you're trying to push people away. So he's trying to hurt her so that she'll like basically not fight for him and just give him up completely. And I loved how that scene was, it was really strange. It was filmed from above the characters, so you were looking down on them. And I just loved that. It gave the scene a really different feel to it because it was filmed from above and not, you know, directly. You know, it kind of almost shows like, because they're hiding their feelings right there, or at least Lee Shun very much is, they are like from above, you're not seeing their faces either, so that's kind of hidden as well. And I just thought it was really clever how they did that in that you know, that scene. And then Gao really shows his true colors, like episode 23, like his betrayal is complete and he fully becomes the villain of the story. All Gao wanted was something to call his, but like even here, like simply building on, he basically takes, Li Shun goes to prison and he takes like the company away. Like Li Shun trusts him with the company and basically Gao takes it all away. And there's a scene where Gao visits him in prison and he's like, yeah, it's all mine now. And it's like, that's the scene where you're like, yeah, there's no going back from this. He's now the villain. He's completely betrayed Li Shun and everything Li Shun stood for. And now, like, he's just, you know, that's where he is like, the Gao can no longer see what he's done wrong. Like, in his mind, he's just taking what was meant to be his, and it never was, but that's how Gao sees it. And like I said, the Gao's acting here is like so good. To me, like I mentioned earlier on, like I've only ever seen this male lead as a, like, not this male lead, like the actor who plays Gao. His name's missing me right now, but anyways, I've only seen him like play the nice guy, and he absolutely crushed it playing the villain in these scenes. Like, you see, like, there's a slight craze to his eyes, and he just sold me the villain. Like, I was like, that's not the Gao we met, you know, 15 episodes back. This is a completely different person. He's lost the plot, so to speak. So yeah, and basically, like, everything goes back to you know, episode 1 now. All the characters are in place, and we return to episode 1 knowing exactly, like, the past and understanding those characters and how they got there. But, like, I loved it how Li Shun walking out of prison, he's a man on a mission, and like, he's got nothing to lose now. He's like had 3 years to prepare for this, and it's just like he's giving off that energy of watch out world, because I'm coming back and I'm doing what I want. And I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved that bit. In episode 24, I just wrote up, this is basically set up for the rest of the drama. It's basically like what I called it on my notes. It's basically like the assembly of the Avengers Club, so to speak, because it's like Li Shun choosing, you know, a company to go work at, and Zhu Yun is basically like finding out that Gao took the whole company away. He took L&P away, and she's like, well, that's not going to stand. So it's her joining, you know, the same company that Li Shun also picked to work at. And I loved that although Li Shun is tougher, again, he's reverted back to like a tougher, drawn in on himself. He doesn't want to connect with Zhu Yun or anything. They are very different people, but they are still very much the same in a way. And I kind of love that, seeing that in episode 24, that no matter how different they try to be, they are still very much the same person. And I absolutely love that. And also, then we're going to episode 24, and I'm like, how the tables have turned, because now Yoon Doon is in charge of Li Shun, and this just, like, I loved that they put these scenes really, really close to, like, the angst, all the angst and craziness of episodes 20 to 23, because we kind of needed that, like, levity after such, like, emotionally charged episodes. And I love that it comes in the fact that Yoon Doon basically now has control of Li Shun when it comes to work. And I just find that hilarious, because that he used to do everything to, like, when they were back in university, obviously he was in charge of her work, and now it's like the tables have completely turned. But he always does it with this smirk on his face, and it makes, you know, he does everything he needs to do with a smirk on his face, and he's still this, like, hard, you know, hard person who walks around with the attitude of, I do what I want, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's hilarious. And yeah, like I said, really nice way to break the tension from the previous episodes. And it like gives the audience like a little reprieve from all the angst and all the sadness that we'd been, getting from the last couple of episodes. And also, I really like that it's pushing them to work together again. And although they are like forced to work together in a sense, because they have this common goal of getting, LP back. I find that they still to this day, not to this day, but in these episodes, they are still pushing each other to be better. And that's always been a good thing between Lee Shun and Zooyoon, is that they push each other to be better. So I really love that. For some reason, I have no notes for episode 26, and I don't remember what happened in episode 26. So I'm hoping nothing big, because I'm just going to go straight into episode 27. And Lee Shun, in this episode, basically, the person who has been abroad with Zooyoon is her childhood friend, and he comes back, and Lee Shun is so jealous, and he doesn't know how to deal with these emotions. Like, I think he lacks emotional understanding of the world, and like, just, I think he feels so much, but he doesn't know how to express it, and he doesn't know how to deal with these emotions. So again, he just does what he does best, and he lashes out at Yuzoon, because that's the way he works. He doesn't know how to deal with his own emotions, so the way he does it is by pushing people away and by being by himself. And he does this by like hitting where he knows it's going to hurt her the most, by saying that their uni years meant nothing to him. And obviously we know as the audience that it does, because he did everything he could to protect her. But she obviously doesn't know the half of it. And in this scene also, Lee Shun goes to visit his teacher, and there's, his teacher from university. And I love this because, he needs that. He's the adult that he needs in his life. And it's like the teacher is guiding him and but also telling him off when he needs to. And ultimately, he's just like supportive of him. And Lee Shun really, really needs like an adult, superior figure to just trust him and to just like believe in him and to just be there for him, because he has nobody like that. So I absolutely adored that scene. And then he finds out about like, what happened to Zooyoon, and that she was basically depressed and she was suicidal and everything. And his apology to Zooyoon is small. Yes, I agree with that. There was like, I think quite a lot of people had a bit of a problem with how small his apology is. Like, he needs to be more apologetic, but ultimately, I also recognize that he's a man that does not apologize. Sorry isn't a word that is in his vocabulary. For him to utter those words alone is a big deal. And I think, Zooyoon knows that. And that's why she accepts that apology, is because, yes, it's really small. And yes, like, by him, like in episode 27, throwing back at her that those years meant nothing, and, throwing her back into that feeling is horrible. But I can also understand that, like, just him saying I'm sorry is a really big step for him. So it shows that he's evolving and, really thinking about things. Like, his acceptance of her help is also a huge step in, like, their journey. So it's showing growth, and I love how we've seen like small steps, but we keep seeing them over and over again, and we see like growth in each episode. Almost, you're seeing a slightly better version of the person that they're going to become at the end of the drama, and I absolutely loved that. I really, really did. I wrote here, I also love that I love God, my notes are so chaotic. I feel like this episode is getting so long. But basically what I was trying to say is that I love like their ragtag of team of like undervalued people that are now being able to prove their worth, because basically they've joined this company which is pretty poor and not doing that well. It's very, very small, and they've basically taken the company and they're kind of like making it big. They designed a really good game that's like made like the best sellers list and whatnot, and they got an award for it. So basically they are taking that company and they are making it bigger and better. And I just love like the little ragtag team from the little company. I just feel like it's really, really, it's kind of like the underdog story all over again, isn't it? Like this little company is now up against LP, which is, Gao's company now, and it's huge. And I think that's always been Li Shun's story. Like he's always been the underdog, not the undervalued, but the underdog in terms of people look at him and don't give him, don't pay him attention or anything just because of like the way he looks or where he comes from or anything like that. So yeah, I love like the little team that they got together. And then 29, there's one scene that I have to mention this scene. Basically, the owner of the company that they work at wants to take everybody out for like a team building exercise, and they go to like these hot springs of sorts. They go to this, big hotel that has like saunas and hot springs and whatnot. And basically there's a scene where Li Shun is in a hot tub and Zhu comes and joins him, and this whole scene, it's so raw. Like all of their emotions that have been like held back from the past and the present and everything, they just smack into each other at that point. And there's like no kissing again, no touching, nothing. But it's their eyes, it's their body language, it's like what they're saying. They're completely bearing, each other right there in terms of like what they're saying to each other. And their chemistry, again, is like, it's so intense. You can feel it through the screen. It's crazy. And the thing is, at this point, they both know they want to be together. Like, they know they want to be together, but they're so scared to be in that place again and in that vulnerable situation again of being in a relationship and like, loving. But they already love each other. They just don't want to admit it because they just don't want to go back, especially Li Shun. Li Shun does not want to like go back, and he doesn't want to be in that place again where he needs to hurt Ji-yoon again. So I think he's so scared that he's going to allow her to come in and he's going to lose her again, because that's what's been happening to his whole family and everybody that comes in, into his life. They either leave or, they unfortunately have passed away. So he's incredibly scared, and I really, really like it. But, that scene is just so well done. I absolutely loved it. I just had to mention it. And, like, there's this line where Li Shun says, "I know what you're worried about. I will take care of it." And that's exactly what he said to her in, like, the past. In university, he said those exact words to her. And in the present, he says the same thing. And it's like, I think it's a little nod at how, everything has changed. Their situations are completely different. They're now grown-up adults with grown-up responsibilities. But everything has changed and nothing has changed at the same time. So I really, really like that, how they show that. So I think episode 30 onwards is when like Li Shun basically he's adapted to the world outside of prison and everything. And he's basically like, it's time for him to step up and start taking on everything that's been, happening. And he designs this game, and it's like a game where basically it's aimed at men, and men can kind of choose their perfect girlfriend. And I think this whole concept is hilarious because he kind of nails it in the head because they've had a previous game in the company where it's a historical game. It's very, assertive, very right, but it's not a moneymaker. This game that Lee Shun is suggesting is a moneymaker, but it's just so funny because Zuyun is like, I want no part of this game. This game is horrible. And obviously she's just kind of like jealous at the whole situation, but it's very funny, very, very funny. And also the fact that there's a scene that they're in the office and there's like a bed in the office, in a little room off to the side if people kind of like want to crash there at some point. And they both fall on the bed. They break the bed and then everybody kind of hears that. And it's just like, that scene was just hilarious. I love that. Yes, sometimes we get very, very heavy. I mean, just in the episode before, we were like in this really raw scene between our main couple. And then like fast forward an episode and they kind of like give you these like comedy breaks and it kind of releases that tension that you've been holding in like previous scenes. This drama does that really well, where they kind of like give you angst and give you tension and then they like break it up a little bit, so it feels nicer to watch, I think. So yeah, and again, the chemistry and the intensity that these two flirt is insane. It's crazy. Like, I absolutely loved all of it. So yeah, there's a scene that I have to mention in episode 31, and I think mainly I have to mention it because basically it's a cooking scene and it's funny, but I think there's something deeper in that scene, and it's that they are cooking together, right? And they're both terrible cooks. I will give them that. Both absolutely terrible cooks. But they're talking about like what they're doing at the company or like how to do this game and whatnot. And then their hands are just moving around each other. And it's like, it's how well they know each other, that they don't even need to talk about what they're physically doing, that their bodies just instinctively like work around each other. And I'm like, that is the proof of like a good, relationship, in the sense that you can just work around each other and like you kind of almost anticipate each other's moves, if that makes sense. And I loved that. It was a very funny scene because great coders, terrible cooks, both of them. They just need to get takeaway because the fish they cooked was inedible. But yeah, I love that scene. I think like on the surface it was meant to be like this little comedy scene, but also there's like a lot more to their body language and how they're moving around each other. So I really loved that. I loved the snow scene that comes up straight after that. And it's so symbolic because it's snowing and he calls her princess again. And it's like, I just love it. It's so simple, but it means so much to like both of them. And then the montage of like their past moments at this scene was done so well. Like all these little moments, and then like it's bringing us back. And it's like, I loved this little break here before we dive back into the Gao storyline again. And also the fact that Lee Shun, all he says to Yoon is, it wasn't your fault. Like everything that happened, it wasn't your fault. And she really needed to hear that to like really heal from everything that's happened. She needed to hear those words, and she needed to hear them from Lee Shun. And I'm so glad that they put this here in this scene. It's the comfort that she's been like seeking for 4 years, and it's so powerful. It's a really powerful scene because it shows that the simplest things, the simplest of words, can make such a difference. It's like, everything that she needed to like finish her healing journey of forgiving herself and like moving on to the next stage of her life. So yeah, this episode was really, really good. And then like basically episode 33 and 34 and even 35, I don't necessarily like, I have qualms with this scene because we go straight in to Gao and like them basically going head to head. Lee Shun wants to bring Gao down, Gao wants to bring Lee Shun down, and then like they've made Gao this really, really horrible person. Like, his choices are really questionable. And then he gets cancer. Cancer, right? How ironic is it that they chose to give the villain, or what they want us to believe is the villain of the drama, right, the same disease that killed Li Shun's mom? And it's like, I don't necessarily appreciate that, because they worked so hard to make Gao like this villain, right? And if they wanted him to have a redemption arc, it should have started earlier on, and they shouldn't have pushed his character as much as they did into the dark side, because at that point, all I can feel as a watcher of the drama is, well, he deserves it, because he's done really, really, really bad things. So that is one of my qualms with like the Gao arc of this story, is that I wish they would have, not pushed his character as much, or done his redemption arc sooner. And also, they have the Xinjing, is it Xinjing? I think that's how you say it. Like, the character that basically was really bad to one of Ziyun's friends in high school, and she ended up dying. They have that character. They can just use him for a villain and like not make Gao so bad that then it's unbelievable for him to turn everything around. But yeah, I had qualms with that. I don't think they did. That was where, where the drama lacked a little bit for me. And I think like at that point they then spent too much time on the Gao storyline, when all I wanted was more of our main couple. So that would be like a qualm for me. But before I move on to like the last episode and everything that happens there, I just have to say that basically episode 35, you basically get a kiss scene, and it is the most beautiful kiss scene that I've seen. And it's not like a kiss scene, I said beautiful, but it's like desperate. It is a desperate kiss scene. Like, something happens and Li Shun runs to, and at this point they haven't gotten back together or anything, but Li Shun basically runs back to Ziyun and he just grabs her and kisses her, and like up against the wall, and it's like this desperate kiss scene, and it's stunning, absolutely stunning. And then basically Ziyun says to him, "You can't give in, I won't allow it." And I'm like, that is all he needs to hear. And then like, that's his cue for, you can't give up on this. We have to, keep fighting. We have to keep going. And I think that kiss is like all the love and heat and pent up feelings that they've had for, 4 years plus, everything just bursting forth into one scene. And the actors did such a good job. And yes, then there's like a bed scene and everything, and I tell you what, it was done so well. They pushed it a bit far than most Chinese dramas will push, and it was done so bloody well, so bloody well. Yeah, I absolutely loved that scene. But also, I've just realised this episode is getting to like, 2 hours. It is long. And I do have like a lot more on basically like just points that I picked up on Gao and like his storyline. But like I said, I feel like that was dragged on way too much. But I still was really happy with how how this drama overall ends. Our couple get back together, and I absolutely loved it. I really, really did. As you can see from the 2 hour episode that I'm doing on it. So what I'll do is I have actually created a blog, which is linked both on my Twitter and it's also linked on my Instagram, and I'll leave the link also in the description for the episode. And what I'll do is I'll just post all my notes from this, from Lighter and Princess on in a blog post, so you guys can go in and just see and read up the rest of my thoughts, because I think this episode is getting really, really long and I don't know if you guys are going to like that or not, but I just had a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings and I had to get them out, but now it's getting way, way, way too long, so I won't go any further. But what I will say is, so basically my final thoughts for this drama have to be that I absolutely loved it. I really, really did. I ended up giving it a 9.5 out of 10 on MDL. And ultimately, like, the Gao character needed to be written slightly better for me to give it that 10. I think that was one of the points where the story faltered a little bit in the last couple of episodes. Like I said, I would have loved to see him actually repent sooner and for Zijing to be the ultimate baddie of the drama. I also think there was too much time spent on Gao and Shulina, which I didn't even mention in this episode, but Shulina is someone who originally is in love with, Li Shun, and, it's just another thing that Gao sees Li Shun taking away from him. He never did, but regardless. So yeah, I just think there was way too much time spent on Gao and Shulina in episodes 34 to 36, and if they wanted us to like them, they shouldn't have pushed so much into the unlikable corner. But this was always a drama about great characters. Like, no one is completely good or bad. They are humans just going through life and doing the best they can. And that is one of the things that this drama did so well. They put across, like, growth and mistakes, and even our female lead being slightly manipulative. There was so much grayness in these characters, and I absolutely adored that because it made them that much more real, that much more human. So I absolutely loved that. I wrote on a Twitter post that one of the things that Chen Feiyu and Zhang Jingyi did so well was that they became their characters that I ultimately believed our main couple will last, because they learn from past mistakes. I see them living together for a really long time and building a better future for everyone surrounding them. So yeah, I think that's ultimately what this drama did so well, is our main couple. Like, I loved a lot about this drama, but if I had to pinpoint one thing that made this drama so, so good to me, it is that main couple. Their story, their growth, their journey. I was there for every single step of the way, and I absolutely loved it. So that's it. That's all I'll say. So, like I said, that's it. That's my thoughts on this drama, which will probably very likely not only make it into my top 5 favourites of the year, but it'll definitely make it also into my all-time favourites. I don't think I won't soon get over Lighter and Princess, that's for sure. So that's everything from me this week. Like I said, I have quite a lot more notes, but I will link them in a blog post. I will leave all of those there. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm really sorry that it's long. I hope you guys still enjoy it, even with how long it is. But hopefully this episode doesn't scare you off, and I will see you next week for more sharing of my Asian drama journey. This has been another episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm your host, Liliana, and you can come and chat to me on Instagram at Tea and Soju Pod, all one word, and on Twitter, tea_soju_pod. You can also email me at teandsojupodcast@gmail.com. Lastly, if you enjoy this podcast, please help by rating and reviewing wherever you listen to help others find this drama corner. I'll leave everything linked in the description notes. See you next time for more Asian drama chatter.